Good evening, everyone. Sorry for the delay. ठीक है. How are you all? All good? ठीक है. बात करेंगे बाद में. So last class we discussed about the interior of the earth and then rocks. So earth's interior is divided into core, mantle, crust. In terms of chemical properties, we have this division. So core is the densest and made up of nickel and iron, right? And mantle is moderate. So and the crust is the heaviest, made up of silica, aluminum. So mantle is like lesser silica and more aluminum. Sorry, more iron, magnesium. So crust is divided into continental crust, oceanic crust. Mantle is divided into upper and lower mantle. Core is divided into outer and inner core. Okay. So we discussed about the brief characteristics between them. So most importantly, the difference between continental crust and oceanic crust. Continental crust is the crust near to the continents, the parts which we call it as the continents, right? So which is made up of majorly lighter elements like silicon, aluminum, and slightly denser is oceanic crust, silicon and magnesium, SEMA. And in terms of thickness, continental crust is thick, oceanic crust is thin. In terms of density, oceanic crust is denser, continental crust is lighter. So in terms of the rocks, continental crust is brighter, oceanic crust is darker. In terms of age, continental crust is older, oceanic crust is younger. So इसका कारण आपको मिलेगा plate tectonics में. Okay, wait till plate tectonics, you'll get the reason behind that. Mantle is divided into upper mantle and lower mantle. Core is divided into outer core and inner core. Outer core is liquid, inner core is solid. Why do we have outer core as liquid? The prevailing temperature is higher than the melting point. Okay, so whereas in inner core the prevailing temperature is lower than the melting point. The physical divisions: lithosphere, asthenosphere, mesosphere and barysphere. So lithosphere is made up of crust and upper part of upper mantle. Below that there is asthenosphere, which is semi-solid, semi-liquid state. The outermost lithosphere is very hard and rigid outer layer. Okay, it's too hard and rigid layer. So whereas asthenosphere is semi-solid, semi-liquid, thoda sa plastic type. So then comes mesosphere, rest of the mantle, and then barysphere, rest of the core, entire core. So we also discussed about the discontinuities, different types of discontinuities. The innermost discontinuity, which is there between outer core and inner core, Lehman. Okay. Then after Lehman, between outer core and the lower mantle, Gutenberg. Lower mantle and upper mantle, Ripetti. Okay. Then mantle and crust, Morovicic. So between the upper part of continental crust and lower part, Conrad. Okay, good. So that is what is discontinuity. So we have different types of rocks. The next topic, igneous, sedimentary and metamorphic rocks. We studied about the difference between the rocks and minerals. So rocks are aggregates of minerals, minerals are aggregates of elements. So there is no single chemical formula for these rocks, whereas the minerals, they can be defined using a single chemical formula. So three types of rocks: igneous, sedimentary and metamorphic. Igneous rocks are those which are formed directly from the magma. Okay, directly from the magma. So we have two types of igneous rocks: intrusive igneous rocks, extrusive igneous rocks. So intrusive igneous rocks are formed below the surface, extrusive above the surface. Intrusive is also called as plutonic rocks. Extrusive is also called as volcanic rocks. So intrusive is usually it cools slowly, develops crystalline texture. Extrusive cools faster and develop glassy texture. So intrusive is harder in strength, exclusive is not very hard. So examples of intrusive: granite, gabbro. Extrusive, basalt and andesite. ठीक है, good. So second type, sedimentary rocks. Sedimentary rocks are basically formed by the deposition of sediments which are derived from other rocks. It can be an igneous or sedimentary or metamorphic rock. तीनों हो सकता है. So once the sediments are formed, that is through the process of degradation, which involves weathering, erosion. So they get transported and then deposited. So once it get deposited and buried down at higher temperature and pressure, it undergoes lithification. Lithification involves compaction and cementation. Compaction is getting pressed. Okay, cementation is binding with finer particles. Okay, so like silt or something. Examples of sedimentary rocks: sandstone, chalk, then clay, then और gypsum. ठीक है, और ठीक है, coal in a way. Metamorphic rocks are those rocks which change their property from its original rock. That is what we call as metamorphic rocks. The change is due to the change in the pressure condition. It is called as dynamic metamorphism. Change in temperature is thermal metamorphism. Together it is thermodynamic metamorphism. Metamorphism involve foliation, lineation. These are the few processes. So banding कहाँ पर होता है? Foliation. When the minerals get arranged in along a planes, है ना, ऐसे band जैसे दिखता है. That is what is banding. So examples: granites metamorphism, gneiss, marble is from limestone. ठीक है. So sandstone will lead to quartzite. ठीक है. ठीक है. Coal, graphite and diamond. ठीक है. ठीक है. Fine. So then we also studied about the rock cycle. The way the rocks continuously get changed from one form to another form: igneous to sedimentary, sedimentary to metamorphic, metamorphic to igneous, or metamorphic to sedimentary, sedimentary to metamorphic, igneous to metamorphic. ऐसे continuously change होता है. That is what is rock cycle. तो यहाँ तक बात हुआ था. ये बताइए, any doubts? Yes. अर्थ का रोटेशन, उसका कारण बोलना मुश्किल है. ओवरऑल टेम्परेचर, it is the temperature. The temperature is not high enough to melt the rocks at that high pressure. सेंट्रीपिटल फोर्स की वजह से कैसे सॉलिडिफाई होगा? There is another phenomena related to the Earth's outer core. That is what is geomagnetism. That is related to rotation. वो अलग बात है. So we'll talk about that. ठीक है? Anything else? Because of the types of rocks which they are made up of. Continents are majorly made up of granitic rocks. And the various different forms of granitic rocks, the metamorphic forms of granitic rocks, which are majorly intrusive in nature, which are more crystalline in nature, and they are slightly brighter in color because of the mineral composition. The oceanic crust is darker in color. Again, it's majorly made up of basaltic rocks. Okay, so basaltic rocks are Again, extrusive type of igneous rocks. Mineral composition is different. The overall magma itself is different. कलर से रिलेटेड नहीं है, बट स्ट्रेंथ से रिलेटेड है, टेक्सचर से रिलेटेड है. रेट ऑफ कूलिंग विल डिसाइड द टेक्सचर एंड कलर, टेक्सचर एंड स्ट्रेंथ, not the color as such. Color will be decided by the overall magma type and the minerals which are present over there. ठीक है, वो सब थोड़ा सा डिटेल में है, नॉट मच रिक्वायर्ड, इतना डिटेल में ज़रूरी नहीं है. ठीक है. सो बेसिकली, so we can say how exactly the process, based on the process we can say mechanically formed, where there is only mechanical erosion is on mechanically formed sedimentary rocks, where there is some kind of organic matter is also involved, that is organically formed, for example coal. Okay. Mine नहीं है वो, that was the deepest drilling which we have done. Mine तो 4 किलोमीटर का ही है. That is what I said. I don't know what you heard. Ocean? हाँ हाँ. एवरेज ही है, एवरेज ही है वो, एवरेज तक ही किया था. कुछ जगह में कॉन्टिनेंटल शेल्फ के ऊपर से किया होगा, ओशन क्रस्ट मिलने में थोड़ा सा टाइम मिला होगा. It's not exactly the location where they have done it along the oceanic basin. Maybe along the continental shelf. Clay is a component of soil, yes. So clays, so we have different components of soil. So sand, clay and mud, silt. And it's when they are very highly rich, clay becomes highly rich in soil, that is what we call it as a clay type of soil. It also becomes hardened to become the sedimentary rocks. ठीक है, चलो. So I guess rocks, it's all clear, the types of rocks. The color, it appears bright, it reflects more light. So have you seen granite? यहाँ पर जो लगा है कॉर्नर में, वो जो बीडिंग में लगा है ना ऊपर, that is granite. वो ब्राइट है डार्क है? ब्राइट है. Most of the rocks of continental crust, they are brighter in color. It is just a characteristic. Okay, you see a basaltic rock, it's too dark. ये तो मेड है, दिस इज मैन मेड, दिस इज नॉट ओरिजिनल. वो कॉर्नर में जो बता रहा था मैं. चलो रॉक्स तो समझ आ गया. ओके, लेट्स सी हाउ मच यू हैव अंडरस्टूड. Identify these rocks. I want full answer. Whoever wants to answer, please raise your hand. पूरा आंसर चाहिए मुझे. A, B, C, D. Online students, give your answers completely. A, B, C, D कौन सा है? First answer at least type of rocks. Igneous, sedimentary, metamorphic में कौन कौन सा है? First give me the type of answer. Type of rocks. Yes. A, B, C, D बताओ यार, कौन सा है? हाँ, A is igneous, हाँ. B is sedimentary. Igneous, not igneous. Igneous, हाँ. मेटामॉर्फिक, ठीक है ठीक है. एनी अदर आंसर्स? ओशनिक कौन सा है यार? ठीक है, अकॉर्डिंग टू यू, आंसर इज अकॉर्डिंग टू यू ओनली. हाँ हाँ ठीक है. और कोई आंसर्स? एनी अदर आंसर्स? Metamorphic, okay. Anything else? Any other answers other than this if you want to contribute? A is intrusive, good. Then B is sedimentary, ठीक है. D is metamorphic, good. ठीक है, आपका आंसर भी सही था, यही था ना, राइट. A is igneous, B is sedimentary, C is igneous, D is metamorphic rock. ओके, अभी टाइप बता सकते हैं, मतलब व्हाट इज द नेम ऑफ दीज रॉक्स? एक्सप्लेन करता हूँ, रुक जाइए. कौन सा है अभी बता सकते हैं? A is granite, B is sandstone, C is basalt, D is good, good. ठीक है. So is that clear? A is granite, which is intrusive igneous rock. You can clearly identify the structure. Okay, ये जो crystalline texture से तो पता चल जाएगा. Intrusive है, metamorphic नहीं है. Metamorphic में you will see banding, lineation, foliation, कुछ भी नहीं है, ये तो clear है. This is how granitic rocks are found, है ना? This is most common. D is marble, ये भी तो दिखा है. बहुत जगह में फ्लोरिंग में यूज करते हैं मार्बल, राइट, मेटामॉर्फिक रॉक. एंड C is sandstone, sandstone, right? It is a sedimentary rock. And C is basalt. Okay, so you can see dark color, basaltic rock, right? So is that clear? Any doubts here? So near to North India, which type of sandstone is used here? Red sandstone, red sandstone. So which type of architecture it is? Red sandstone जो यूज करते हैं. आर्ट एंड कल्चर क्लास हुआ है, ठीक है. फिर भी सुना है तो बताइए, देखते हैं. हाँ, आर्किटेक्चर नहीं, वो तो टेम्पल आर्किटेक्चर बता रहे. दिस इज मथुरा स्कूल ऑफ आर्किटेक्चर. Mathura school of architecture uses red sandstone. There is a Gandhara school of architecture that uses grey sandstone. Grey sandstone. So if any of you have seen these big Buddha statues of Afghanistan, बड़ा बड़ा बुद्धा स्टैचू देखा है? So that is grey sandstone. That is Gandhara school only. ठीक है. So that completes our topic, rocks. I hope it's all clear. So let's move on to the next topic. Earth's movements. So basically this topic refers to the different kinds of changes which we observe on the surface of Earth. So on the surface of Earth there is no uniformity in topography, right? What is topography? Elevation, the type of land, है ना? Land बाहर कैसे है? Sometimes it is plain, sometimes it is mountainous, sometimes it is hilly, sometimes it is plateau, right? So there is no uniformity here. That is what is topography. So in some places it is totally plain region. Okay, for example, the northern plains of India. Okay, Delhi, UP, Haryana, ये सब तो totally plain है. So you go further north, you will find Himalayas. So behind that there is a Tibetan plateau, a very high elevated plateau. So and behind that there are hills, and again there may be plains. Can you see there is so much of difference? There is so much of difference in terms of elevation, and this is oceanic basin. Oceanic basin is much more diverse in terms of the topography. In some places it goes very deep, which we call it as trench. ऐसे होता है, बहुत deep रहता है. In some of the places it comes almost near to the surface, which we call it as ridge. In many of the places there are volcanoes inside the ocean, okay, or just flat topped hills. से बहुत सारा changes मिलता है आपको. There is no uniformity on the surface. In fact, the diversity of land which we find below the ocean is much more than the diversity of land on the water. Okay, surface के ऊपर जो दिखता है. So what causes so much of diversity? What is the reason behind this? Various different forces impacting this surface. Earth's surface is under the continuous impact of the forces which acts in two different directions. One from interior, another from exterior. Okay, one from inside the earth, another from outside the earth. Okay, there are various different forces impacting the surface. So that is why, even though if you represent the earth in a in a almost circular manner, but there is no uniformity here, because ये इतना बड़ा size का है कि ये uniformity negligible हो जाता है. But on the surface there is so much of variation. Sometimes it is mountain, sometimes plateau, sometimes plains. ऐसे बहुत सारा variation है. There is so much of variation on the surface. So that variation is caused by the forces acting from Earth's interior, as well as the forces acting from Earth's exterior. अंदर से बाहर से दोनों डायरेक्शन से they are trying to continuously change the surface. It is continuously trying to modify the surface. And time will decide in what stage a particular land will be there. There is no uniformity at all. So you might have heard about Aravalis. Aravalis के बारे में तो देखा है, दिल्ली में देखा है Aravalis. Have you seen Aravalis in Delhi? कहाँ पर है? करोल बाग में तो नहीं है. कोई होटल होगा. So you want to see Aravalis in Delhi? So हाँ, best location is Raisina Hills. The President Estate है, थोड़ा सा ऐसे ऊंचा जाता है ना, so कार वही है. That is part of Aravalis. And थोड़ा सा JNU के तरफ गया तो मिल जाएगा आपको. Okay, so JNU के पास में मिल जाएगा. और राजस्थान में गया तो properly दिखेगा. So you will try to see, you can see, and go towards the southernmost part of Rajasthan, near to the border of Gujarat, you will find proper Aravalis. So you know, at one point of time these Aravalis were much taller than Himalayas. It was much taller than Himalayas. So अभी इस level पे है. In few millennials ये भी नहीं रहेगा. Okay, there were many such mountains on the surface of Earth, which continuously change. And talking about Himalayas, you know where were the rocks in Himalayas? Around 100 million years ago. Earth had a history of 4,800 million years ago, right? Just 100 million years ago, all these rocks were below the ocean. Ocean के अंदर था. There were no Himalayas at all. So the entire Himalayas are formed in the last 100 million years only. All these rocks were at the ocean bottom. Even now we find various evidences, various different fossils. The marine fossils are found in the rocks of Himalayas. Okay. So the nature's forces, it has that power to change the topography continuously. Okay, it has the power to change the topography continuously. So we have Andes mountains, one of the longest mountain range in the world. कहाँ पर है Andes? South America. It's in South America. ठीक है? So Rocky Mountains, North America, Alps, Europe, like this. So at one point of time there were no mountains at all. Okay, all these there were no mountains. So there was plains, there was plateaus. So which gradually rise to become mountains. Some of them starts to erode, becomes plateaus. Some of them erodes much more, becomes plain, and some of them are buried under ocean again. ऐसे continuously change होता ही रहता है. All this is caused by two types of forces. One is the forces from inside, which is called as the endogenetic forces. Endo means inside, genetic means origin. Endogenetic is originated from inside the earth. All these forces from interior, it is called as endogenetic. The forces which are acting from outside the earth is called as exogenetic. Endogenetic and exogenetic. Okay, two types of forces. Both try to change the land continuously and brings changes in the land. I told you mountains become plateaus, plateaus becomes mountains, plains becomes hills. ये सारा continuously change होता है ना. All that changes are called as geomorphic processes. They are called as geomorphic processes. The process which continuously result in the change. So basically geomorphic processes are the result of exogenetic as well as endogenetic forces, and the forces results in movements, which is exogenetic movements and endogenetic movements. The movements caused by the endogenetic forces are called as endogenetic movements. There it is exogenetic movements, and together it is geomorphic processes. The process of generation of mountains, okay, upliftment of mountains and the process of erosion of mountains, everything it's part of geomorphic process which causes the continuous change in the earth's topography. Now let's talk about exogenetic movements. Exogenetic movements are the movements which continuously change from outside. For example, weathering, erosion, mass movements. You might have heard about landslide, rock slide, है ना? So weathering is a process which we studied. Very briefly, I told you about that in sedimentary rocks. The rocks break down through weathering, right? So in the same way, large scale structures also break down through weathering. Weathering, erosion continuously breaks down the structures. So it all happens from outside, बाहर से होता है. What is the force which is causing this here? Any examples? Wind, water. Water includes the rainfall, river water, groundwater also, and even the coastal, the waves are glaciers. The movement of glaciers also change the surface. Continuously it causes a very large scale erosion. ग्लेशियर तो बहुत स्लो मूवमेंट रहता है बट बहुत ज़्यादा एरोजनल कैपेसिटी रहता है उसमें. So these are the agents of exogenetic movements. What is the force? What is the energy source? Sunlight, and then anything else? Gravity. There are only two sources of energy for any movement which is happening from outside. कोई भी ले लो, यही दो चीजों से ही होगा. It is only because of these two sources you will find energy. Okay, let's talk about wind. Why there is a movement of wind? Because there is a difference of pressure. Wherever there is a difference of pressure in the atmosphere, wind moves from one region to another. It always moves from high pressure to low pressure. That is what is wind. First of all, why there is a wind? Why there is a pressure difference? Why there is high pressure in one region, low pressure in another region? Because of difference in temperature. In one place there is a cold temperature, in another place there is a hot temperature. Why there is a temperature difference? It's because of difference in the heating. That is due to the sun. There is no uniformity in heating. Because of lack of uniformity, there is lack of differences. There is differences in terms of pressure. Pressure difference है तो winds आ जाएगा. Winds causes weathering. What is the source? The sunlight. What about rainfall? Why there is rainfall? Because of sunlight. Because of sunlight, the water gets evaporated, becomes part of the atmosphere, and there the temperature is low, it starts to cool down. Condensation, precipitation. Right? Once it falls, it will start to flow. Why it flows? Because of gravity. As it flows, it will try to erode all the rocks in its path. It will break down the rocks in its path. It will change the topography slowly. Slowly here. Over a long period of time, it will cause all these changes. Right? The river water, coastal water, groundwater, all of these, either they source the energy from sunlight or gravity. These are the only source of energy. The agents of energy include the wind, water and glaciers. This is exogenetic. So exogenetic forces will not cause the upliftment of large scale structure. Mountain upliftment नहीं होगा, upliftment तो अंदर से होगा. The upliftment is caused by the interior forces. But whatever the upliftment phases are there, it will degrade it. Okay, it will break it down. So that's why it will not create the exterior, the exogenetic forces will not create any big primary structures like mountains, plateaus and plains. So whatever it is created, it will try to change it and it creates minor topographical features on that. Like river valleys, caves. है ना, तो जब ये forces act करेगा surface के ऊपर act करेगा, it will try to erode it continuously. Over a long period of time, all these minor features will break down the entire major feature. Then what results in the formation of these major features? What causes the formation of mountains or plateaus or plains? Endogenetic forces. Through endogenetic movements. What is the source of energy for endogenetic? अंदर से क्या source है energy का? Earth's radioactivity. Radioactivity का मतलब some of the elements releases radiation at a particular temperature. At specific condition it releases radiation. For example, uranium. Uranium is radioactive element. We use it for nuclear fission, right? Nuclear reactors में energy release करता है ना. So in the same way, there's lot of radioactive material in the Earth's interior. Because of high temperature, it causes radioactivity and releases further more heat. Then second, the Earth's primordial heat. So what is this heat? The heat which was there in the Earth's beginning time. तब से जो heat था ना अभी भी है. You may ask वो अभी तक कैसे है? अभी तक तो खत्म हो जाना चाहिए था. Because of higher density, that heat is still preserved. Core में बहुत ज़्यादा density है ना, the matter is closely packed. So because of that, the heat is still preserved. The Earth's primordial heat, the Earth's core has that primordial heat still packed, still intact in the core. And together with these, there is generation of energy in the Earth's interior continuously. That energy is carried to the upper layers through the movement of magma. यहाँ से magma आता है. Okay, magma causes various different types of changes. Where there is a large scale movement of magma, the land gradually rises upwards. Okay, and as the magma moves in the Earth's interior in this direction, it causes the convergence of various different rocks. Folding होगा, faulting होगा, mountains formation होगा. So बात करेंगे ये सब डिटेल में बात करेंगे. So all such changes which are happening from the Earth's interior is called as endogenetic movements. Endogenetic movements are driven by the source of energy, primordial heat and radioactivity of Earth's interior. Okay, that generates the heat and that heat causes the continuous upliftment of land or even subsidence of land. Rising, falling, जो mountain creation ये सब तो इसी से होता है. So basically endogenetic forces are responsible for the creation of primary landforms. The large scale primary landforms are mountains, plateaus, plains and the basins. They are all created by the endogenetic forces. Whereas endogenetic forces are trying to create these landforms, exogenetic forces are trying to balance that by leveling out. Mountains तो continuously create हो रहे हैं, at the same time ऊपर से erode होके आएगा, पूरा level out होते जाएगा. There is a balance between them, right? So that is what is geomorphic process. Geomorphic process is the entire process. ठीक है? So we'll discuss further more right about this. Various forces from Earth's interior as well as outside the Earth's surface as well as outside the Earth's surface cause physical stress and chemical actions physical stress and chemical action on Earth's material. On Earth's material, bringing about changes in configuration of surface of the Earth, changes in configuration of surface of the Earth called as geomorphic processes. Next paragraph. Geomorphic processes result from two types of forces. Endogenetic and exogenetic. Next subheading, endogenetic forces. First point, these are the forces acting from Earth's interior Next point, the source of energy are radioactivity, and primordial heat. Next point, they result in large scale upliftment or subsidence or folding, upliftment or subsidence, subsidence or folding and faulting. Okay, so we'll talk about this. Folding and faulting. Next point, they're responsible for the formation of major structural units of Earth's surface. Next, endogenetic forces, exogenetic forces, exogenetic forces. First point, these are the forces. These are the forces acting on Earth's surface from above the surface next point, the sources of energy. The sources of energy are sunlight and gravity. Sunlight and gravity. Next point, wind, water, glacier, wind, water, glacier are the different agents of exogenetic movements. Next point, these forces result in minor topographical features such as valleys, caves, waterfalls, etc. Valleys, caves, waterfalls, etc. So basically जो भी change हो रहा है अर्थ के surface के ऊपर, they are the result of either endogenetic forces or exogenetic forces. Endogenetic forces cause endogenetic movements, exogenetic forces called exogenetic movements. Together it is geomorphic processes. Okay, take a fresh page and write this classification. Okay, first I'll write the classification, then we'll talk about this in detailed manner. थोड़ा सा फ्रेश पेज है तो ठीक है, या 3/4 भी काफ़ी है, 3/4 है तो भी चलेगा. सो दिस वी विल यूज़ इट अगेन. ओके, आगे यूज़ करेंगे. सो जो भी आगे टॉपिक्स आएगा सारा यहाँ पर फिट हो जाएगा. So all the processes are of two types. One is endogenetic movement. Second one is exogenetic. Exogenetic movements are classified into two types. One is aggradation. Second one is degradation. Aggradation and degradation. Degradation is of three types: weathering, erosion, mass movement. Weathering, erosion and mass movement. सारा अलग अलग है. लगता है कि सेम ही है बट सब अलग अलग है. Weathering, erosion and mass movement. Endogenetic movements are classified into two types. Diastrophic movements, sudden or catastrophic movements. Diastrophic movements are of three types. Tectonic movements, isostatic movements, eustatic movements. Tectonic movements are of two types. Epirogenic, orogenic. Orogenic is of two types. Folding and faulting. हो गया? इस पेज को ऐसे ही छोड़ देना. इसका सब डिविजन आता है. ओके, आगे टाइप्स ऑफ फोल्डिंग्स, टाइप्स ऑफ फॉल्टिंग, टाइप्स ऑफ वेदरिंग, टाइप्स ऑफ एरोजन, टाइप्स ऑफ मास मूवमेंट. सो जब वो कवर होगा यहाँ आके फिल कर देना. सो पूरा कंप्लीट हो जाएगा. नहीं, उसका नहीं होगा. आइसोस्टैटिक यूस्टैटिक का कोई क्लासिफिकेशन नहीं होगा. इन तीनों का होगा, इन दोनों का होगा. फोल्डिंग एंड फॉल्टिंग टाइप्स होगा. वेदरिंग, एरोजन, मास मूवमेंट्स का टाइप्स होगा. नहीं, उसमें भी नहीं है. उसमें बस एग्जांपल्स है, एग्जांपल्स लिख देते हैं. ठीक है. सो ओवरऑल जियोमॉर्फिक प्रोसेस तो पता है. वट एवर द चेंजेस विच आर हैपनिंग ऑन सरफेस इज कॉल्ड एज जियोमॉर्फिक प्रोसेस. ठीक है. इंडोजेनेटिक है, एक्सोजेनेटिक है. एक्सोजेनेटिक इज change happening from outside. Endogenetic is change happening from inside. Okay, let's talk about exogenetic. Exogenetic movements are basically happening from outside. So for example, breakdown होगा, erosion होगा, mass movement होगा. So whenever such kind of changes are happening, so let's say there is a mountain here. Okay, let's say there is a mountain here and there is a deep basin, flat plains, or a totally flat land. ऐसे हो सकता है। अगर यहां से एरोड होते जा रहे हैं, मान लो यहां से एरोड होते जा रहे हैं, द मटेरियल इज गेटिंग एरोडेड और ब्रोकन डाउन, व्हाट हैपेंस टू दिस मटेरियल? It will fill these low-lying areas, right? The material which is removed from one place will fill the other place. Wherever there is a depression, wherever there is a low-lying area, it will fill it. So gradually over a period of time, there is a uniformity, right? So it involves two processes. Whatever the change which is happening from outside involves two processes. One is aggradation, second one is degradation. Degradation is removal, aggradation is deposition. Right? So through aggradation the slope is leveling out, मतलब पूरा flat होते जा रहे हैं, that is what is aggradation. Degradation is removal, the breakdown. ठीक है? So overall exogenetic involves aggradation and degradation. Aggradation तो simple है, deposition है, उसमें कोई types नहीं है. Degradation involves weathering, erosion, mass movement. Weathering, erosion and mass movement. Okay, all these three are different. We'll discuss about them in very detailed manner in later, मतलब later geomorphology में ही आएगा. What are the different types of weathering? What do you mean by weathering? What do you mean by erosion? What do you mean by mass movement? Overall, these are the different changes. So you might have heard about landslide. वो तो common है, landslide सुना होगा. So that is a type of mass movement. Corrosion सुना है? Corrosion, that's a type of chemical weathering. ठीक है? The moisture content reacts with the mineral and it will break down the mineral continuously. But there is no movement here. So river side के बगल में जो sand मिलता है, the sand which you find along the river side, that is due to river erosion. It is due to river erosion. The running water will break down the rocks continuously and causes erosion. It is erosion. There are different types here: weathering, erosion, mass movements. We'll discuss about them in very detailed manner. But overall, this is exogenetic. इस साइड में है endogenetic. Endogenetic is from inside the earth. So all the changes which are happening from inside the earth, they are classified into two types: diastrophic movements and catastrophic or sudden movements. So what is the difference between these two? Overall scale as well as the timeline. The timeline is that it is sudden, कभी भी हो सकता है. It is totally unpredictable. It can happen at any point of time and we can observe it. That is what is sudden or catastrophic movements. For example, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions. लैंडस्लाइड नहीं होगा, लैंडस्लाइड तो यहां पर आ जाएगा मास मूवमेंट में. अर्थक्वेक कहां से होता है? फ्रॉम द इंटीरियर ऑफ द अर्थ. वॉल्केनिक eruption, the magma comes from interior of the earth. It is sudden and we can observe this. We can observe the change. That is what is sudden or catastrophic movement. What about diastrophic movements? These are very slow and continuous movements which we cannot observe. The upliftment of Himalayas happened over 100 million years. Nobody could have observed. है ना? The Deccan Plateau, it is a very high elevated plateau. It's a plateau region. Even that happened over a long period of time. Tibetan Plateau has got elevated over a long period of time. है ना? That is what is diastrophic movements. It is very very slow but continuous movement. Continuously चलता है. ये तो ऐसे जर्क होके खत्म हो जाएगा. अर्थक्वेक आएगा, खत्म हो गया. वॉल्केनिक eruption हो गया, खत्म हो गया. This will continue. The diastrophic movements is slow and continuous and unobservable. वो हम observe नहीं कर पाएंगे. It happens over a very large area. Okay, it covers the entire continent maybe, or maybe the margins of the continents. So all such movements are called as diastrophic movements. So diastrophic movements are classified further into tectonic movements, isostatic movements and eustatic movements. ठीक है. So यहां से जो आगे जाएगा ये सारा अर्थ का इंटीरियर का ही बात होगा. Okay, whatever we are going to talk and discuss about this is all about the earth's interior. So if you remember our overall geomorphology का जो कंटेंट लिस्ट था, इंडेक्स, it is based on this only. First we discussed about the origin evolution, geological time scale, interior of the earth, types of rocks. ये सारा हो गया. We are here, Earth's movements. Here we will divide the entire changes which are happening on the Earth's surface into two types. One is endogenetic, another one is exogenetic. From here till here, tsunami tak, it is all related to endogenetics. First we'll study about the different types of movements in these topics. Then we'll discuss about the reasons behind these movements. There are various theories to explain the reason what causes the changes from the Earth's interior. Okay, so that is the continental drift theory, seafloor splitting theory, plate tectonics theories. Different theories to explain the movement from the Earth's interior. Then we'll talk about the catastrophic movements, volcanism, earthquakes, and also some of the processes related to the Earth's interior, geomagnetism. ये सब बात करेंगे. All of this are related to tsunami also. It's all related to the endogenetics. Then we'll come to exogenetic movements. देखो. There we'll discuss about weathering, erosion and mass movements and their types. And the resultant of this are the different types of landforms created. The desert landform, riverine landform, coastal landform, glacial landform. These are all result of exogenetic movements. Okay, these two topics are exogenetics. So यहाँ तक बात होगा endogenetics. अभी से divide हो जाएंगे. ठीक है? So जियोमॉर्फिक प्रोसेस इन्वॉल्व एंडोजेनेटिक एंड एक्सोजेनेटिक, उसका ब्रीफली बता दिया, वो काफ़ी है. बाद में हम लेके आएंगे वंस वी कंप्लीट ऑल दिस टॉपिक्स. फ्रॉम हियर इट इज कंप्लीटली एंडोजेनेटिक्स. ओके, दिस विल गिव यू द एंटायर स्ट्रक्चर फॉर जियोमॉर्फोलॉजी. ठीक है, इसलिए वो फ्लो चार्ट इंपॉर्टेंट है, वो याद रखना. ट्राई टू रिमेंबर दैट. Now I told you the interior movements are of two types, diastrophic and sudden. Sudden is very slow, sudden is very fast and continuous, khatam ho jayega, and unpredictable. This is slow and continuous, it will not end as such, and we are not able to observe also. They are of three types: tectonic, isostatic and eustatic. Okay, let's talk about the first one, tectonic movements. What are tectonic movements? What is tectonic? We are giving three words here: movement, tectonic, plates. What do you mean by tectonics? That is what I am asking. You have heard this word plate tectonics, तो इसलिए प्लेट का मतलब साथ में टेक्टोनिक जोड़ दिया, वही है. सो प्लेट के साथ में टेक्टोनिक को जोड़ दिया, इसलिए आप सोच रहे हो प्लेट इज ऑलवेज एसोसिएटेड विद टेक्टोनिक. दोनों अलग अलग वर्ड्स हैं. व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय टेक्टोनिक? टेक्टोन का मतलब क्या है? Tecton means to build. The meaning of tecton, it's derived from the Greek word. It means to build. Okay, build is something new. Plate movement causes the building of some new structure. That is why it is called as plate tectonics. Okay, plate is a different word, tectonics is a different word. So what are tectonic movements? It is not associated with the plates. प्लेट्स के बारे में हम अभी तक बात ही नहीं किया है. ओके, बात करेंगे, प्लेट टेक्टोनिक्स में बात करेंगे. टेक्टोनिक मूवमेंट्स आर दोज डायस्ट्रोफिक मूवमेंट्स. ओके, दीज आर दोज डायस्ट्रोफिक मूवमेंट्स. डायस्ट्रोफिक है कि स्लो एंड कंटिन्यूअस, अनऑब्जर्वेबल ओवर ए लार्ज एरिया, दैट इज व्हाट इज डायस्ट्रोफिक मूवमेंट्स, which results in the building up of new type of landforms. For example, a mountain or a plateau or a plain is created by this. There is a resultant of creation of, as a resultant of these tectonic movements, there is a creation of new landform. So any such kind of diastrophic movements which creates new landform are called as tectonic movements. To build, okay, it results in the building. What exactly it builds? It builds mountains and continents. It builds mountains and continents. So all such building movements are called as tectonic movements. Isostatic movements will not create anything. It will just balance what it is there. Isostasy means balancing. It will not create anything new. It will just balance the movement, balance the structures which are already there. These are balancing movements. We'll discuss about this. Detail में बात करेंगे. Eustatic movements are the movements referring to the global sea level change, sea level rise or sea level fall. Okay, राइज भी हो सकते हैं, फॉल भी हो सकते हैं. ओवरऑल वाटर लेवल चेंज हो गया तो उसके वजह से लैंड में भी चेंजेस आएगा. All such changes observed are called as eustatic movements. So our major discussion will be about tectonic movements, which results in building up of some new. It is, first of all, it is endogenetic. It is happening from Earth's interior, and then it is diastrophic because it is slow and continuous, unobservable. At the same time, it is tectonic. It results in the building of new features, new landform. If it builds up the continents, it is called as epirogenic. If it builds up mountains, it is called as orogenic. Orogenic movements are basically tectonic movements where there is a build-up of mountains, जहां से mountains बनता है. Epirogenic movements are tectonic movements which results in continental building or the parts of the continents. That is what is epirogenic and orogenic movements. ठीक है, चलो यहां तक लिखो, फिर इसका बात करते हैं. The heading is endogenetic movements. Endogenetic movements. They are classified into diastrophic and catastrophic movements. Diastrophic and catastrophic movements. First one, catastrophic movements, in the bracket, sudden movements. These are unpredictable movements. These are unpredictable movements of shorter duration. Unpredictable movements of shorter duration. Stop. These movements can be observed. These movements can be observed. Examples: earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, etc. Next, diastrophic movements. These are the movements. These are the movements that move, elevate, build up the portions of Earth's crust. The portions of Earth's crust. Full stop. These movements operate very slowly. These movements operate very slowly and lead to the formation of primary landforms. So diastrophic movements are of three types. Tectonic, isostatic, and eustatic. Tectonic, isostatic, and eustatic. First one, tectonic movements. First point. The word tecton, means to build. To build. Next point. These are continent and mountain building movements. These are continent and mountain building movements affecting the Earth's surface. Affecting the Earth's surface. Next point. They are of two types: epirogenic and orogenic. Epirogenic and orogenic. ठीक है. So let's talk about these types of tectonic movements. So let's say the Earth's interior is continuously under the impact of the various forces from inside. So what exactly are these various forces? ये forces क्या होता है? So इसीलिए तो बहुत सारा theories है, तो अभी इतना easily नहीं बता सकते हैं. ठीक है? So for now just think that it is the force of magma. The force of magma which is generated in the Earth's interior due to the generation of heat from the Earth's interior. The heat from the Earth's interior is generated due to primordial heat and then और क्या है? Radioactivity. The Earth's core continuously generates that heat. That heat is released into mantle. When this heat is continuously released into the mantle, in some places it generates magma in large scale. बहुत ज़्यादा large scale में generate हो जाते हैं, and this magma once it is generated, it has a tendency to move upwards towards the surface where the temperature is low, where the pressure is low. Because this is highly energetic and highly mobile in nature, it will start to flow upwards. So like this continuous movement of magma from the Earth's interior, which will try to move towards the surface. All such movement of magma from the Earth's interior generates continuous circular movement of this magma. Why? Why circular movement? Because the Earth is covered with the outer shell called as lithosphere. This lithosphere will not let this magma escape from the surface very easily. It's like a outer shell, पूरा block करके रखता है, right? So because of this, only a part of this magma comes out. तब हम बोलते हैं ठीक है volcano erupt हो गया. What happens to the rest of magma? It moves along the lithosphere. It gets divided into two branches. जो magma यहाँ से आता है ना, ऐसे divide हो जाएगा, क्योंकि outer का जो shell है ना, very hard. It's a very hard outer shell. And as the magma moves in this direction, it will move along the horizontal direction. So let's say यहाँ से कुछ magma आ रहा था, ऐसे move होगा, वो ऐसे move होगा. Now both of them will merge and will start to descend down. Can you see? The magma continuously moves in these circles. So this circular movement of magma is called as convection currents. इसको बोलते हैं convection currents. So अभी के लिए इतना रखो, काफी है, बाकी सारा डिटेल में बात करेंगे प्लेट टेक्टोनिक्स में. So there is a continuous generation of convection currents. Now the convection currents are moving in two directions. What is the two direction? बताइए. One is vertical direction, upward or downward, दोनों vertically है. From the core to outward. This is also called as radial direction, along the radius, either upward or downward. This is called as radial force. The radial forces are there continuously acting from the Earth's interior. What is the direction of these forces? They are moving toward the surface. They are moving towards the surface. They are hitting the surface, or they are going down. They are moving away from the surface, upward or downward. Together it is radial forces. There are second force. ये देखो. This is tangential force. The magma is moving along the surface. Here it is hitting the surface. Here it is moving along the surface. Surface के साथ में जा रहा है. Along the tangential direction. This is tangential direction. Tangential forces देखो, इस साइड से भी जो आते हैं, दोनों ये भी tangential है, ये भी tangential है. Sometimes these forces move towards each other. Sometimes these forces move away from each other. ये देखो, यहाँ से तो they are moving away from each other. Here they are moving towards each other. The continuous movement of magma generates two types of forces. One is radial force, either in upward or downward direction. Second one is tangential force. Tangential force. Tangential forces can be of two types. Again, compression हो सकता है, where they are moving towards each other, or tensional force, where they are moving away from each other. Here it is either upward or downward. Here it is either towards each other or away from each other. Towards each other is called as compressional force. They are trying to compress. Moving away, tensional. In case of radial force, it causes the upliftment or subsidence. When the force is hitting the surface, it will rise the entire surface like this. पूरा इसको ऐसे rise करता है. But this force is not acting at one particular point. अगर एक ही point में तो पूरा mountain जैसे बन जाएगा. It is happening over a very large area. That is the flow of magma from the Earth's interior. It is not just coming at one point. It comes out in a very large scale. It will hit the entire Earth surface. The entire Earth surface rises. So that is where you will find the rising plateaus. Land ऐसे continuously uplift होता है ना, it is called as upliftment or rising. In other regions where the forces are acting in opposite direction, moving downwards, it will cause the subsidence of land, the sinking of land. Either the land rises upwards or the land goes down. When it rises upwards, that is when we say, okay, the land is rising, पूरा upliftment हो गया, the plateau जैसे बन गया. So why the Tibetan plateau is such a high elevated plateau? The entire land has risen over a long period of time. Deccan plateau is a elevated plateau. Where is Deccan plateau? The peninsular region, right? It's a very high elevated plateau. Bangalore is located in Deccan plateau. इसलिए weather थोड़ा सा ठंडा रहता है हमेशा, right? This is Deccan plateau. Plateau region है. So that is the result of large scale upliftment. Or maybe large scale subsidence also. For example, Gulf of Mexico. Where is Gulf of Mexico? North America, between USA and Mexico. दोनों के बीच में. It is a gulf. मतलब the land is going down over there. It is subsiding. There, the downward force is active. These kind of upward and downward forces creates in different parts of the earth either elevated surfaces or the downward basins, the shallow basins, right? So that is what we call it as epirogenic movements. Epirogenic movements are the movements which causes large scale upliftment or subsidence. They are caused due to radial forces. Radial forces. So that is how the continents get created over a long period of time. And it is not something sudden. It is very slow and continuous. Since it creates something, that is why it is called as tectonic. It creates what? Continents. Since it is very slow and continuous, that is why it is called as diastrophic. The continent building is a very slow and continuous process which takes a long period of time. Continent का मतलब पूरा के पूरा continent एक ही time में rise नहीं होगा. So some parts will rise, sometimes some parts will go down some another time, है ना? ऐसे continuously तो चलता है. So that results in large scale upliftment. That is epirogenic. What about orogenic? It is due to tangential forces. Okay, let's say this is a surface. Okay, let's say this is the horizontal surface which is made up of different layers of rocks. Okay, which is lithosphere. And if we observe the forces which are trying to move towards each other. Okay, इसी का ही यहाँ पर जो पार्ट है, ये जो पार्ट है, इसी का ही मैं enlarge करके दिखा रहा हूँ. Okay, the forces are trying to move towards each other and above that there is a rock layers. As the forces move towards each other, it will also push these rocks towards each other. There may be a single layer of rocks. It is trying to compress these single layer of rocks. Over a long period of time, these single layer of rocks undergoes folding. When you compress these rocks due to tangential forces, it causes the folding of these rocks. दोनों को ऐसे push करो, it causes the folding of these rocks. It is called as folding. The orogenic movements are basically tectonic movements where there is a build up of mountain. Mountain कैसे आएगा दिखाता हूँ. ठीक है? They are caused by tangential forces. Tangential forces are of two types, so either compressional or tensional. Let's talk about compressional. During compressional, the tangential forces are moving towards each other. That causes the rock layers to undergo folding. पहले ऐसे पूरा elongated था, अभी compress होके fold हो गया. Because of this, earlier the elevation is totally flat. Now in some points you can see the elevated part. That is what is mountain. So what is mountain? Elevated part. जहाँ पर बहुत ज़्यादा high elevation है. Compared to the surrounding region. There is no proper definition of mountain as such. ऐसे कोई ज़रूरी नहीं है कि इतना ही height होना चाहिए. ठीक है? So plain से जो बहुत ऊंचाई दिख गया, that is also mountain. If the entire area is totally uniformly elevated, that is not mountain. We call it as plateau. सारा के सारा land पूरा elevated है तो that is plateau. Mountain है where there is a sudden increase in the elevation, where you see sudden slope. That is observed here. This is what is mountain. What kind of mountains? Fold mountains. It is called as fold mountains, formed due to folding. So let's say there is another layer of rocks, and this time they are subjected to tangential forces but tensional, which are moving in opposite direction. As these forces move opposite direction, it will also remove these rocks away from each other. That causes faulting. What do you mean by faulting? Cracking. The rock layers undergo cracking and they move away from each other. As they move away from each other, it gets divided into different blocks. ऐसे blocks बन जाते हैं. Because of the tensional force, they get broken into different parts. And there is always difference in elevation. After some time, this block has moved down. ये नीचे आ गया, ये ऊपर रह गया, ऐसे. There is always a difference of elevation like this. Originally पूरा एक ही level में था, there is no mountain. But once you start to see the difference in elevation, again you see the mountain here. These are called as block mountains, where there is a difference, sudden difference in the elevation you can see here. At the same time, elevated part है, sudden difference है, elevated part है. That is what is mountain. Which kind of mountain? Block mountains, formed due to faulting. It is formed due to faulting. What is faulting? Cracking. Cracking is caused by tensional force. Here also there is creation of mountain. Mountain building is orogenic. It results in either folding or faulting. Folding is compressional force. Faulting is tensional force. Folding creates fold mountains. Faulting creates block mountains. Since mountains are getting created, it is tectonic. Creation हो रहा है ना? That is why it is tectonic, and this is a very slow and continuous. That is why it is diastrophic. So again, we will discuss about these in detail. What are the different types of folds, different types of faults, और detail में बात करेंगे. Overall, both are tangential, right? What is tangential? Which are acting along the surface. They are acting along the surface. Inside force है, इसीलिए endogenetic है. But along the surface, that is tangential. Right? Any doubts here? One by one. अपलिफ्टमेंट ऐसे जरूरी नहीं कि ऊपर आ गया है. ओके, सेम ही लेवल पे है. सेम ही लेवल पे है, मान लो सेम ही लेवल पे था, बस एक ब्लॉक नीचे चला गया. एक ब्लॉक नीचे चला गया. एज दे मूव अपार्ट थोड़ा सा गैप आ जाएगा ना, ये नीचे चला गया. So इसके कंपैरिजन में ये ऊपर है. That is also still mountain. It is not necessary that it has to rise upwards, because the tensional force creates the formation of fault. मतलब blocks create करता है. So one block is moving downwards in relation to another. मतलब वो relatively वो ऊपर है. That is what is block mountain. ठीक है? Anything else? ठीक है. So we'll discuss about this और डिटेल में बात करेंगे. So let's take a break and continue after that. ठीक है. Read about this epirogenic forces, epirogenic movements. Sorry, epirogenic movements. First point. These are vertical movements. These are vertical movements caused by radial forces. Vertical movements caused by radial forces. Next point. These are characterized by these are characterized by large scale upliftment or emergence. Large scale upliftment or emergence and subsidence. Subsidence or submergence. Upliftment is called as emergence. Subsidence or submergence. Of land areas. Next point. They are very slow and widespread. They are very slow and widespread. Next point. These movements lead to continental building. These movements lead to continental building. Example. gradual upliftment, gradual upliftment of Deccan Plateau, gradual upliftment of Deccan Plateau, comma, slow subsidence of northern coast of Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of Mexico. Next, orogenic movements. Orogenic movements. बाहर पोल्यूशन थोड़ा ज़्यादा हो रहा है, पोल्यूशन ज़्यादा हो रहा है, सो चिल्ड पानी नहीं पीना है, सो मास्क पहनना है. सो अभी तक तो मास्क कोविड के लिए पहन रहे थे, अभी पोल्यूशन के लिए पहनना पड़ेगा. ओके, जिनके लिए थोड़ा सा इम्यूनिटी वीक है, रेस्पिरेटरी प्रॉब्लम ऐसा कुछ है, तो बी केयरफुल, ट्राई टू वेयर मास्क व्हेन यू आर आउटसाइड. सो एंड दैट टू N95. ठीक है, बाकी सारा तो काम नहीं करता है. ठीक है, नेक्स्ट पॉइंट, फर्स्ट पॉइंट, ओरोजेनिक मूवमेंट्स. दीज आर माउंटेन बिल्डिंग मूवमेंट्स. These are mountain building movements caused by tangential forces. Caused by tangential forces. Next point. They involve intense folding and faulting, intense folding and faulting of narrow belts. Narrow belts. ठीक है, एक्सप्लेन करता हूँ. नेक्स्ट पॉइंट, द टेंजेंशियल फोर्सेस are of two types: compressional resulting in folding, compressional resulting in folding, tensional resulting in faulting. So I guess few of you are having some confusion regarding this. Let me just briefly explain this. So from inside the earth we experience two different forces. One is radial. ठीक है, radial forces which acts either in upward or downward direction. So other one is tangential force. Radial forces are either upward or downward. So let's say in some region there is a radial force. That is, from the interior there is a force which is trying to push upwards. So whatever the rock layers which are there above this, okay, this is what is lithosphere. बाहर का जो rock layers है. So whatever the changes which we saw on the see on the surface is changes in the lithosphere. Lithosphere का ही change हो रहा है ना. Mantle में तो change नहीं होगा, core में तो नहीं होगा. It's basically the outermost layer getting changed. That is what is mountain, continent, ये सारा जितना geomorphic process का बात हो रहा है. So basically there is an upward movement which is changing the upper part. whenever there is a vertically upward movement. Okay, so upliftment due to the radial force. Gradually the land rises here. Continuously over a long period of time, if the force is acting here, so gradually as a rise hoga. It is not just at one point, the entire region rises upwards. Because here the force is not just acting at one point, it is happening in a very large scale, in a widespread manner. That is what is upliftment, emergence. The land rises over there. Okay, normal elevation से बहुत ऐसे ऊपर जाते जाते होता है. So it, in many of the places it creates plateaus or the elevated lands. So in other places, wherever there is a subsidence, where the radial force is moving downwards, gradually the land goes down, subsidence of land, right? Submergence, it's also called a submergence. So this is also part of the continents only. Continent का ही कुछ जगह में ऐसे नीचे जाता है. So shallow basins are formed, right? That is submergence. Both are radial force acting in vertical upward or downward direction. That is why radial. Tangential force देखो. So let's say in the same case where the earlier we assumed radial force, let's say there is tangential force acting here. That means the forces are either moving away from each other or towards each other. However, the forces are acting along the surface. That is what is tangential force. It can happen in two ways. One is either away from each other or towards each other. Wherever they are moving towards each other, it will also push these rock layers. नीचे से हो रहे, but at the same time it will also try to push the rock layers. Right? As these get pushed over a long period of time, these rock layers undergoes folding like this. पहले पूरा सीधा था, अभी compress होके fold हो गया. And can you see this elevated part? That is what we call it as fold mountains. Fold mountains. That is the result of folding. That is the result of tangential force. Which type of tangential force? Compressional force. On the other side, there can be tensional force. Okay, there can be tensional force here. Here the forces are trying to move away from each other. In the same case, it will also try to move these blocks away from each other. Surface rocks it is trying to rip it apart. It's trying to move them apart. In that process, the surface blocks, the surface rocks get divided into different blocks like this. ऐसे blocks बन जाता है because of the cracking, because of faulting. Wherever tensional force is there, it results in faulting, the cracking. This was the original rock layers which got broken into multiple blocks and cracks. As they move apart, some of the blocks move down, some of the blocks remain in its position. Like this, right? Can you see there is a difference of elevation? This is what is mountain. Mountain is basically where there is a sudden increase, steepness दिखेगा, height दिखेगा. That is what is mountain. Which kind of mountains it is? Block mountains. Block mountains. This is due to tensional force. Tensional force. It is resulting in the creation of mountain. That is why it is orogenic. मान लो this was the original layer of rocks. If it is subjected to tensional force, it results in block mountains. If it gets subjected to compression over a long period of time, it gets converted into folding like this. This is the original था. अगर टेंशनल फोर्स हो गया ब्लॉक माउंटेन्स बन जाएगा, कंप्रेशनल फोर्स हो गया फोल्ड माउंटेन बन जाएगा. राइट? रुक जाइए. This is what is folding. The original rock layers, they were totally horizontal layers. Due to the continued conversions, so the continued compression, they get compressed. The original rock layers got compressed, and here in some regions you will find the fold mountains wherever it is rising up. This is how you can see the fold mountains. This is the excavated version. बड़ा सा माउंटेन को एक्सकवेट किया है, यहाँ पर क्लियरली लेयर्स दिखता है. यू कैन सी द डिफरेंट लेयर्स. द ओरिजिनल हॉरिजॉन्टल लेयर्स हैव गॉट फोल्डेड. बेस्ट एग्जांपल इज हिमालयास. हिमालयास कैसे फोल्ड हुआ था? देयर वर टू पार्ट्स ऑफ द कॉन्टिनेंट्स. ओके, वन वाज ऐसे यूरेशियन पार्ट, यूरोप एंड एशिया मिलके एक कॉन्टिनेंट बोलते हैं, यूरेशियन कॉन्टिनेंट. सो अनदर इस साइड में था इंडियन पार्ट, इंडियन कॉन्टिनेंट. दोनों के बीच में देयर वाज कंप्रेशनल फोर्स, because of which the entire sedimentary layers, there were large amount of sediments which are there in this थोड़ा सा ऐसे plain layer था. Okay, this is the top view. Over a period of time it got compressed, ऐसे compress हो गया. So between both now we have Himalayas, which is a fold mountain. The tangential forces usually results in the formation of mountains, which is either fold mountains or block mountains. And where exactly it is happening? Usually along the edges of the continents. Okay, and the overall creation is, the landform which is getting created is a narrow belt. Narrow मतलब elongated है. In case of continental building, epeirogenic movements, it is large scale upliftment. It is not a narrow belt. It is the entire area is rising up. Here the changes are happening along one particular belt. इस belt में हो रहा है ना? The force of compression is causing the entire rock layers to get compressed in this manner. ऐसे horizontal, ऐसे compress होके पूरा के पूरा ऐसे बन गया. Right? That is why it is called as the narrow belts. Narrow belts में होता है. This is what is folding. So any of you have been to Ladakh? कोई गए हो? Ladakh में have you observed the mountains? You can easily see the mountains over there, the structures over there, because there is no vegetation. Okay, there is no vegetation, there is no trees, पूरा barren दिखता है. So there you can clearly observe the rock formations. If you had observed clearly, you could have easily noticed all of these were fold mountains. Okay, this is one of the picture. You can see the layers of rocks. Okay, can you observe this? The layers of rocks. देखो, clearly दिखता है. Himalayas are also like this only, but Himalayas southern part is totally covered with the mountain vegetation या snow, तो clear दिखेगा नहीं. Go to Ladakh, वहाँ पर और clearly दिखता है. These are called as fold mountains, which is the resultant of folding. What about block mountains? Faulting की वजह से कैसे होगा? So original layer ऐसे था, crack हो गया, it got separated into different blocks. And as they move, because of their differential motion, थोड़ा सा some parts remain elevated, some parts goes down, and that creates block mountains like this. You can see one block, another block बीच में नीचे चला गया, right? is what is block mountains. So इंडिया में कोई है ब्लॉक माउंटेन्स? विंध्यास एंड सतपुरा. विंध्यास एंड सतपुरा आर आल्सो लाइक दिस. पहले एक सिंगल ब्लॉक था, क्रैक होके थोड़ा सा एक पार्ट नीचे चला गया. दैट इज वेयर ए रिवर फ्लोज नाउ, नर्मदा रिवर एज वेल एज तापी रिवर. इट फ्लोज थ्रू दैट क्रैक. ऐसा पूरा ऐसे वैली बन गया. द ब्लॉक विच हैज मूव्ड डाउन, वेरी सिमिलर टू लाइक दिस ओनली. ऐसा ही है. ठीक है. दैट इज व्हाट इज ब्लॉक माउंटेन्स. Fold mountains and block mountains. Any doubts here? Radial forces. Magma is the major channel of this. No, we'll come to that. The forces, the reason इसके लिए बहुत सारा theories है. यही है थियरी. कॉन्टिनेंटल रिफ्ट थियरी, सी फ्लोर स्प्रेडिंग थियरी, प्लेट टेक्टोनिक्स थियरी. यस यस यस. टू एक्सप्लेन दैट, टू एक्सप्लेन द मैकेनिज्म ऑफ मूवमेंट, व्हाट इज कॉजिंग द मूवमेंट, हाउ इट इज कॉजिंग द मूवमेंट. इसके लिए बहुत बड़ा सा थियरी है. तो ये सब बात करेंगे. So overall, over a period of time, it has got eroded. It has become thoda sa curvy, but otherwise it is a block mountain. We see more of block faulting activity has seen over there. नहीं, ब्लॉक माउंटेन्स में क्रैक हो गया तो मैग्मा बाहर निकल के आता है? Is it possible? So the faulting activity does not mean that the entire lithosphere is cracking. The faulting is happening only near to the surface. Okay, only near to the surface. So it doesn't mean that the entire lithosphere will crack. वो तो 100 kilometers का thickness है. Rifting and faulting mean the same, but however rift valley means series of faults. A continuous series of faults is rift valley. Fault refer to one block. एक ब्लॉक में बीच में जो क्रैक होता है ना, that is called as fault. So but in a large area where there is continuous series of faults, because it will not happen that there is only one block formation. If the entire land is breaking up and cracking up, it results in a series of faults. All such series of faults which are aligned in a straight direction or zigzag manner, it is called as rift valley. इसको बोलते हैं rift valley. Because of the tensional force, the entire lithosphere is trying to move away. लोअर पार्ट भी होगा, बट ये इतना क्लियरली विजिबल नहीं होगा. अपर पार्ट में क्लियरली विजिबल होगा. Now, what is the major difference between a folding and faulting? This is faulting, this is folding. दोनों के बीच में क्या डिफरेंस है? मेजर डिफरेंस क्या है? ठीक है, अदर देन दैट वो तो मैंने ही बताया. और बताइए. फोल्डिंग में क्या होता है? उसमें भी हुआ है. ठीक है, ठीक है. और पीछे से एक आंसर आया था, क्या है? क्रैक्स. व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय क्रैक्स? यस, that is the difference. So it is the continuity. In case of folding, you don't see the loss of continuity. Original layers ऐसे था वैसे ही है. It has just got folded. There is no discontinuity here. There is no cracking here. In case of faulting, you will see the discontinuity. The original layers become discontinuous. That is the major difference between folding and faulting. Okay, folding and faulting is defined by that. Folding is the maintenance of this original continuity. Faulting, they are not continuous. Fine. So because some faults are also caused by compressional force. In some cases, faults can also be caused by compressional force. We'll talk about that. Generally tensional force के वजह से ही होता है, but compressional force के वजह से भी हो सकता है. So that's why the major difference between them is whether they are continuous or not. If it is continuous, folding. If it is not, it is faulting. Right about this? Yes, there was a doubt. Yes, not at a one particular place, but in different parts of the earth. एक जगह में एपिरोजेनिक होगा और दूसरी जगह में ओरोजेनिक होगा. Next subheading. Folding. First point. When compressional forces cause the earth's rocks to push or squeeze against each other. To push or squeeze against each other. It results in formation of folds. Next point. Folds are the structures in which the layers are bent or distorted. The layers are bent or distorted without the loss of continuity. Next, faulting. When tensional forces pull the rocks apart, it results in the formation of faults. Next point. Faults are the fractures. Through which primary surfaces are broken and displaced without the loss of continuity. ठीक है. with displaced with loss of continuity, with कर दो, with loss of continuity, without नहीं with है, out को out कर देना. Let's talk about folding. So folding is basically the layers, the rock layers which have got compressed, right? The rock layers which have got compressed. You know, folding, the idea of folding was not the recent times. ऐसा नहीं है कि इसके बारे में अभी recently ही पता चला था. So many of the stories, the mythological stories refer to these folding process. One such story is a Tibetan story. कि बहुत पुराना स्टोरी है. So there was a Tibetan god. He had two sons, and both the sons, they are also gods. God का son तो god ही होता है. So for playing these two sons, one son created earth, another son created sky. मतलब कहानी ऐसे है. So one of the son created earth, another son created sky. So, but the earth was too big and sky was too small. The sky was not able to cover the entire earth. The idea is पूरा earth को cover करना था sky का. So, earth तो बड़ा हो गया तो earth को छोटा करना था. So, he wanted to reduce the size of the earth. So, for reducing the size of the earth, he started to press and compress the parts. Okay, ऐसे compress करने लगा. So wherever he compressed, that resulted in the formation of mountains. ठीक है? So ये कहानी में था. But if you see, the idea of folding is like that only. The compressional force, right? It is the compressional force which is trying to compress the rock layers and causing the folding. So पुराने time में भी ये idea था. Right? So that is what is folding. Folding is a layer of the earth's surface which has got compressed. पूरा ऐसे elongated था, now it has got compressed and you see the rock layers which are folded. That is what is folding. Types of folds. Okay, let's discuss about the different types of folds. So whenever a rock layer is folded, देखो original rock layer ऐसे था. This was the original rock layer. This was subjected to folding like this. Over a long period of time, it gets folded like this. This is what is folding. What is the force? Compressional force. Compressional force. This is one fold. If you take one fold, it has the up fold and down fold. Okay, so each fold will have the elevated part, and to compensate that there is subsided part. This is what is upfold and downfold. The upfold part is called as anticline. The upfold part, this is what is upfold. It is called as anticline. Elevated part होता है ना? This is what is anticline. अगर एंटीक्लाइन है तो बगल में सिंक्लाइन भी होना चाहिए. द डाउनफोल्ड पार्ट इज कॉल्ड एस सिंक्लाइन. ए फोल्ड हैज टू पार्ट्स. वन इज अपफोल्ड विच इज एंटीक्लाइन and downfold which is syncline. So you take a single fold Okay, this is part of a single fold. You will find two limbs of a fold. Fold has two limbs, two sides. With respect to vertical axis, okay, ये जो 90 degree vertical axis है ना, the reference plane, these two limbs make an angle. इसका angle है, इसका भी angle है. If these two angles are same, it results in symmetrical fold. The fold is symmetrical. इस साइड से जितना स्लोप है उस साइड से भी उतना ही स्लोप रहेगा. The slope on both the sides is same. That is what is symmetrical fold. That means both the limbs are inclined at same angle. Okay, we'll start from symmetrical fold. The first type of fold is symmetrical fold, where both the limbs are inclined at same angle. But not every time it will be a symmetrical fold. For symmetrical fold, the forces which are acting from both the sides should be totally equal. Only when the opposite forces are totally equal, it results in symmetrical fold, which is very rare. Usually from one end, there is more force than the other, which results in more folding. That is called as asymmetric fold. Okay, so if both the limbs are not inclined at the same angle, it becomes asymmetrical fold. So if the force increases much more, मान लो और ज्यादा फोर्स इंक्रीज हो गया, दिस साइड स्टार्ट्स टू बेंड मच मोर लाइक दिस, और ज्यादा बेंड हो जाएगा लाइक दिस. देखो इस साइड देखो, पहले एटलीस्ट यहां पर तो इस साइड एक साइड तो था, अभी दोनों एक ही साइड में टिल्ट हो गया. दैट्स बिकॉज द अदर लिम्ब इज टिल्टेड टू मच, बिकॉज देयर इज टू मच ऑफ कंप्रेशन. दैट इज कॉल्ड एज ओवरफोल्ड, मतलब ज्यादा फोल्ड हो गया. ओवरफोल्ड, ओवरटर्न्ड फोल्ड भी बोलते हैं. ओवरफोल्ड. फोर्स और इंक्रीज कर दो, और बेंड हो जाएगा. दिस टाइम द फोल्ड इज लिटरली लाइंग डाउन. ए फोल्ड विच इज फोल्डेड बियॉन्ड द ओवरफोल्ड. ओवरफोल्ड जितना था, नॉर्मल फोल्ड तो ऐसे होगा, एटलीस्ट दो साइड तो मिलेगा. लाइक यू विल फाइंड द टू लिम्ब्स, even though they are not symmetrical, at least the one limb is on the other side and this limb is in this side. Overfold में क्या होगा, दोनों limb भी इस साइड में आ जाएगा. Both the limbs are on one side only. That is what is overfold. ज्यादा fold हो गया. Okay, this is the vertical axis. देखो और ज्यादा fold हो गया तो this time the fold is literally lying down. The fold is literally lying down. It is called as recumbent fold. A fold which is literally lying down. Recumbent fold. और ज्यादा फोर्स हो गया तो नीचे तो नहीं जा सकते ना. In that case, this fold breaks. Both the limbs will break. This fold is, this side is as it is, and इसको ऐसे निकाल के लेके जाएगा. The other limb breaks and is thrust forward. The other limb is broken and is thrust forward. The fold has become discontinuous. That is what is nappe. Okay, now the question is nappe a fold? Technically may not be, but it is a fold क्योंकि originally fold था. Because of a very strong compression, it has become nappe. It has become discontinued. मतलब layers have become discontinued. पहले ऐसे था, देखो पहले ऐसे यूनिफॉर्म था, ऐसे टिल्ट हुआ, ऐसे पूरा literally lying down. That is what is recumbent. Then again it is thrust forward. This is what is nappe. For nappes, you need a very high compression that is found in Himalayas. Because from both the sides it is two different continents which are converging in Himalayas. From one side the Indian continent, another side the Eurasian continent. both are trying to push towards each other. There is a very high force of compression that results in the formation of nappe. You will also find such nappes in Alps. Alps कहाँ पर है? Europe. Europe. Where there is a very high compression, you will find them. These are the different types of folds. Is that clear? First we have anticline and syncline, two parts of a fold. The upfold is called as anticline, the downfold is called as syncline. In a single fold, matlab two limbs, if both are inclined at the same angle, it is called as symmetrical. If both are different, asymmetrical. If both the limbs are tilted in the same direction, overfold. Much more folded, that is literally lying down. And one of the limb is broken and thrust forward in the plane. This plane may, it was earlier lying down, in that same plane it was thrust forward. It is called as nappe. These are different types of folds. Any doubts here? See, it is the movement of magma which is causing all this. The movement of magma which is happening in large scale. It is a very large scale movement. And it is difficult to imagine that they are moving just below the surface. They might be moving much lower levels. And that force is getting transferred to the upper levels. And that is causing the folding over there. We just need some push in the horizontal direction. That is causing the folding here. The movement is very large scale. We just need some horizontal push. If the push is towards each other, it causes compression. If the push is away from each other, it causes tension. वहीं पे नहीं होगा. In the same place where the compression and tensional force is experienced, we cannot expect to have the radial force over there. Radial force would be somewhere else. It is there. हर जगह में मिलेगा, but कौन सा dominant है ये decide करेगा. Okay, it is much more technical. We'll talk about this in plate tectonics. Okay, so I explained that in a very simple manner. जो कन्वेक्शन करेंट्स जो मैंने बताया था वो बहुत सिंपल था, तो थोड़ा सा वेट करो, टेक्टोनिक प्लेट टेक्टोनिक्स में क्लियरली समझ आ जाएगा. It can happen within the tectonic plate also. टेक्टोनिक प्लेट्स का बात ही नहीं किया, जब बात होने तो बताता हूँ. Radial force results in upliftment. The land gradually rises upwards or downwards, moves downwards. हाँ, प्लेटू होगा या ग्रेजुअली एलिवेटेड लैंड, ऐसे डोम शेप्ड स्ट्रक्चर भी बनेगा. ठीक है, राइट अबाउट दिस. So first one. Okay, point wise लिखते जाओ. First point. The upfold of a compressed layer is called as anticline. Next point. The downfold is called as syncline. The downfold is called as syncline. Next point. A fold will have two sides. A fold will have two sides called limbs. LIMBS, limbs. Next point. If both the limbs of a fold are inclined at same angle, both the limbs of a fold are inclined at same angle, it is called as symmetrical fold. Symmetrical fold. Next point. If one of the limb is inclined at an angle more than the other, it is called as asymmetrical fold. It's called as asymmetrical fold. Next point. When the strata in one limb is folded beyond vertical axis, it is called as overfold. It is called as overfold. Next point. A fold which is literally lying down due to continuation of pressure on one of the limbs is called as recumbent fold. Next point. When the pressure exerted upon a recumbent fold is sufficiently great to cause it to be torn from its roots, torn from its roots and thrust forward it results in nappe. nappes are well developed in Himalayas. Nappes are well developed in Himalayas and Alps. Next, types of faulting. Syncline or anticline? Norium. ये कहाँ पर था? Where did you read about this? बात कर दे. Types of faults. So what causes faulting? The cracking of the surface layers causes faulting. So this was the original layer of rocks. Let's say these original layers of rocks were subjected to tensional force. They're trying to move away from each other. Over a long period of time, because of this tensional force, it results in cracking. So multiple blocks हो जाएगा. After sufficient period of time, and these blocks are trying to move away from each other, right? You will find one block here, another block here. मान लो ऐसे एक नीचे चला गया, एक ऊपर है. The blocks are moving in relation to another. Okay, so if you can see, if this is being pushed away, slope तो इस डायरेक्शन में है ना, ये थोड़ा सा नीचे चले जाएगा. It moves down. And if this is moving away, okay, मान लो ऐसे था slope, this slides down. You may ask पूरा straight क्यों नहीं है? पूरा straight तो कभी नहीं होता है. The rocks are not that smooth कि ऐसा कि ऊपर से नीचे एक ही straight line में crack होगा. There is always differences. Okay, so differences रहता है. There is always in a slanting direction. We see the faulting. So that results in different blocks. Now this is moving. As it moves away, it slides down क्योंकि slope इस side में है. Slides down, and this moves away, it slides down ऐसे. That differential motion causes the faulting here. There is a faulting here. ऐसे different faulting हो जाता है. So in normal case, you can see there is one block here, there is another block here, and this block is moving down in relation to the other. This happens when these blocks are moving away from each other, right? This is moving down, a kind of moving down. This is what is called as normal fault. Normal fault. It is also called as dip-slip fault. It's called as dip-slip fault. A fault where one block is moving downward in relation to another one. इसके relative in a relative sense it is moving down. Okay, that is what is called as dip-slip fault. But ये हमेशा ऐसे नहीं होता है कि like these blocks move away from each other. Sometimes these blocks move towards each other also. How is it possible? ये तो compression हो जाएगा, इसलिए ये reverse fault है. In normal cases, it is due to the tensional force. Sometimes due to compressional force, a fault is created. Sometimes due to compressional force a fault is created, and in that case the blocks are actually moving towards each other. As they move towards each other, one block rises above another one. Okay, मान लो इसको stationary समझो, ये ऐसे rise होता है. That is why it is called as reverse fault. It is opposite to the normal fault. Now the question is, why would the rocks undergo faulting? वहां पर तो folding दिखा दिया था, faulting क्यों हो रहा है इधर? Some of the rocks are too rigid. Where the rocks are too rigid, too hard, and it doesn't undergo folding. If it is a smooth sedimentary rock, sedimentary layer है तो वो बहुत easily fold हो जाता है. If it is too hard rocks, a large area of metamorphic rocks or a granitic rock, igneous rocks which are too hard and resistant, if you try to compress, it will break down and forms fault. Not every rock will undergo folding. Those rocks which are capable of sustaining this pressure, they undergo folding. Some of them, they will not be able to sustain that pressure, they break and they become faults. So in some cases the compression causes the faulting. So basically not in every cases it is tensional force. Even the compressional force can also cause faulting. In that case it is called as reverse fault. A reverse fault is also called as thrust fault because both the blocks are thrust towards each other. It is called as thrust fault. So in some cases there is a creation of two different blocks. देखो दो block बन गया है, but these blocks are neither moving towards each other nor moving away from each other. In the first case they are moving away from each other. The second case they are moving towards each other. Here there is a faulting, cracking तो हो गया है, but they are neither moving towards nor moving away, but they are moving parallel to each other. The blocks, दो block ऐसे create हो गया. If they are moving towards each other, it is reverse fault. If they are moving away from each other, normal fault. If they are moving across each other, strike slip fault, which is also called as transform fault, where two different blocks are moving across, they are moving parallel to each other. If they move away from each other, one block moves down. If they move towards each other, one block moves up. Here neither moving down nor moving up. That is what we call it as transform fault. Transform fault. Can we call Nappe a reverse fault? No, because originally it was a folding. Folding था, फिर वो fault बना, मतलब fault नहीं बना, crack हुआ है बस. But अभी भी layers are not continuous, they are not straight, they are folded layers. There is some discontinuity. Here you can clearly identify blocks. Okay, here you won't find folding. Folding नहीं होता है यहाँ पर. थोड़ा सा very minimal होगा, but otherwise there is no folding at all. They are originally blocks. They are originally folds, they are originally blocks. Here they are originally blocks. ठीक है? So block बन गया, now they are moving towards each other. That is what is reverse fault. पहले block बना था, वो पहले fold था. मूव होते होते क्रैक हुआ, ये पहले क्रैक होके फिर मूव होना शुरू हुआ है ना? So that is why that is still considered as a type of fault only. But movement is almost same, दोनों में similar ही है, both are moving towards each other, right? Normal fault, reverse fault, transform fault, dip slip fault, thrust fault, strike slip fault. See, when this faulting happens, it happens over a very large area. Okay, so let's take a large plateau region. ऐसा बड़ा सा ऊपर से, let's say this is the top view. Fine, and the forces are trying to break this plateau into multiple different parts, and because of which there is a cracking of rocks. The entire plateau breaks. And if you zoom in, यहाँ पर normal fault होगा, यहाँ पर reverse fault होगा, normal fault होगा, कुछ जगह में बीच में parallel भी होगा. It is like a continuous series, right? Wherever the blocks, different blocks have formed, if they are moving towards each other, it becomes a reverse fault. If they are moving away from each other, it is normal fault. If they are moving across each other, it is transform fault, simple, right? So fault is just that one part of it. It happens over a very large area. It happens over very large area. For example, Africa. The eastern part of Africa is cracking and moving away from the rest of Africa. Okay, the eastern part of Africa कहाँ पर है? मेडागास्कर के बगल में. इजिप्ट नहीं. इजिप्ट तो नॉर्थन पार्ट है. सोमालिया, then Ethiopia. Can you see here? There is a huge crack which is clearly visible. Okay, zoom in किया तो पता चलेगा. Otherwise there is a crack. This part is moving, this part is moving. But हर जगह में तो ऐसे हमेशा ऐसे ही नहीं होगा. तो if it is moving in this way, if it is moving in this way, they are also kind of moving towards each other. Right? So when the cracking is happening over a large area, in some parts the blocks move towards each other, in some parts they move away from each other, in some parts they are just moving parallel to each other. We have normal fault, reverse fault, strike slip fault. तीनों मिलेगा. So overall the land separates. As the land separates, the cracking happens. You will find these kind of faults over there. ये तो separate हो रहा है. In few million years, this entire part will be a separate landmass itself. बीच में ocean आ जाएगा. Okay, it will take a long period of time. जैसे अरेबिया पार्ट है, अरेबिया का पार्ट जो अभी सेपरेट हो गया, तो बात करेंगे और डिटेल में बात करेंगे. ठीक है, इज दैट क्लियर? वो तो अलग कहानी है. So write about this types of faults. First one, normal fault. When one of the blocks move downwards, when one of the blocks move downwards, in relation to another one, due to tensional force, it results in the formation of normal fault or dip slip fault. Normal fault or dip slip fault. Next, reverse fault. When one block moves up in relation to another one, when one block moves up in relation to another one due to compressional force, it results in reverse fault or thrust fault. Thrust fault. Third, when both the blocks move across each other, when both the blocks move across each other, involving no vertical movement, involving no vertical movement, it is called as strike slip or transform fault. Strike slip or transform fault. सो वहां पर जो था वो क्या था, एंटीक्लाइन एंड सिंक्लाइन है ना. सो देयर इन केस ऑफ ए फोल्ड द अपफोल्ड इज कॉल्ड एज एंटीक्लाइन, द डाउनफोल्ड इज कॉल्ड एज सिंक्लाइन. सो यहां पर भी ऐसे ही पार्ट है, देयर इज अपवर्ड पार्ट एंड डाउनवर्ड पार्ट. द अपवर्ड पार्ट इज कॉल्ड एज हॉर्स्ट, HORST. The downward part is called as graben, GRABEN. Okay, this is also graben, this is also horst. Basically anticline syncline का मतलब इसका anticline and syncline है. Okay, just add this part. In a fault, the upthrust block is called as a horst, HORST, horst. Stop. The down dropped block is called as graben. So now we have two types of mountains. One is fold mountain, another one is block mountain. Okay, fold mountain है, block mountain है. So what are the differences between them? Upward is always horse, downward is always graben. कहीं पे भी normal या reverse. बताइए what are the differences? Here there is continuity. Original continuity is maintained. Here it is not. Here it is discontinuous. The blocks are basically the discontinuous portions. Fold mountains are caused by compressional force. Block mountains can be caused by both the types. Both compressional as well as tensional. है ना, normal reverse fault दोनों है. Here it is compressional force. There block mountains can be due to both compressional और tensional, दोनों के वजह से हो सकते हैं. fold mountains are longer in length. उनका length long रहता है and they are shorter in width. Fold mountains, you take any fold mountains, okay, ऐसे they are elongated, but if you take the width, ये तो short रहता है. Himalayas also, Himalayas stretch for nearly 3000 kilometers. But if you see the width of it, around 300 kilometers. 300, 400, 500 maximum. Right? They are longer. They are longer in width and shorter in, longer in length, shorter in width. Block mountains, they are not longer. मतलब इतना longer तो नहीं होगा. These are just the parts of the continent which has just cracked. ऐसे crack हो गया and फिर blocks हो गया. So maximum इतना ही होगा. We are talking about one particular block, another block. They are not longer. Like we'll just see the elevated parts. We'll just see some cracked part. They are not very elongated. And compared to the length, width is more. मतलब width यहाँ का width और वहाँ का width देखा तो वहाँ का width ज़्यादा रहता है ना? That is not a block mountain. It is entirely different. Rift Valley. इसका part में हम block mountain बोल सकते हैं. Okay, the Africa is not a block. We won't call that entire thing as a block mountain. It's a rift valley, in fact. Okay, they are not longer. Examples are very important. I'll give you the examples. वापस जाके mark करना. Okay, so mark करके next time पूछता हूँ, देखते हैं कितने लोगों को याद रहेगा. हाँ, बोल सकते हैं. Height also. This is taller. This is not very taller. मतलब इतना ज़्यादा लंबा तो मतलब इतना ज़्यादा tall तो नहीं होगा. Therefore, which one is found? Fold mountains are found in series. Yes, they are also found in series. ठीक है. Examples देखो. Examples very important. Examples of fold mountains: Himalayas, Andes, Rocky Mountains, Alps, Atlas Mountains. Okay, वापस जाके मार्क करने हैं सब. Himalayas are also fold mountains only. Aravalli is also fold mountains. They are very, very old fold mountains. बहुत पुराना टाइम का fold mountain. Block mountains, Vindhyas, Satpura, Black Forest, Vosges, Vosges, Vosges. Usually नहीं बनता है. They are hard rocks. The faulting has happened in large scale, but they are not as elongated as Himalayas. ठीक है, ठीक है. ये सब मार्क करके लेके आना, देखते हैं. लिख सकते हैं. So in the next class we'll talk briefly about isostasy and eustasy, and after that we'll start with continental drift theory and seafloor spreading theory. ठीक है? Thank you.